All right, we're here with Sean Burke right now, minor league pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. Sean, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show.
I am really psyched to have you on today, man. I've been trying to get an interview like this in for some time now. After seeing the success that you've had at the University of Maryland and now getting drafted to the getting drafted into the big leagues, this was definitely something I wanted to get done. Shout out to Coach E for kind of putting this thing together and getting this thing going.
Yeah, definitely. He's the homie.
Yeah, no, I've been doing some social media work for him over the summer, so kind of running his Instagram, doing some things like that. And it was a nice way to get this connection going, and I'm really glad to get you on today. The first thing that I have to ask you, obviously, being getting to this level of baseball in your life, I'll kind of take it back a little bit. I want to ask you, like, how did you kind of get started with this? And, before we do that, actually, I'll have you kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, me and Brian, actually, we grew up in the same town, went to the same kind of elementary school, middle school. I ended up going to a different high school, but, still, from the same area, from the same, group of people. Grew up. His brother plays for the travel team that I played for growing up. A lot of connections, and I basically just started. I was young. I was probably four years old maybe when I started playing baseball, and that for me, that was just something that stuck always. I played, obviously, Brian, soccer is a big thing, and so I played soccer. I played basketball, but I mean, baseball was always just a thing that stuck for me. So that was the thing I knew probably from, I want to say maybe 8-9 years old. That was like, this is what I want to do. And I was fortunate enough to have some God-given ability and work hard to get to the point where I'm at now. So for me, it's just trying to make the most out of my opportunities.
God-given ability, absolutely. I mean, you're like what, 6'6"?
Yeah, about 6'6". Yep.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
But no, one of the things I was, I was thinking back about, obviously, we grew up in the same town, kind of went to, like same kind of schools growing up. One memory I kind of have of you when we were kind of playing baseball, in our earlier years. I actually around 5th grade took baseball off. I just couldn't hit anything, and I eventually was probably because I realized that I needed glasses, and I just didn't know that at the time. But I was like, man, I just can't hit anything. So around 5th grade, I quit. Came back a year later, but in that year off, I remember I'm at one of my brother's like little league kind of games. We're we're up at Huff Road, and all of a sudden, I hear something that either sounds like a gunshot or an explosion. And all of a sudden I'm just like, what the heck is that? And I just go down to the lower field, and I'm just like asking parents, I'm like, are you hearing this? And they're like, oh yeah, Sean's pitching.
That's funny.
And it was basically you just absolutely breaking some kid's hand behind home plate. I was like, oh my God. I was like, and part of me was like, do I want to go back?
Yeah. Do I want to do this again?
I was like, you got to be kidding me. But no, I was like, that was something I remember kind of growing up with, you kind of playing in those leagues. And eventually you did go on to go to St. John's High and do some things from there. But kind of going off that, when you were kind of growing up and you ended up going over, throughout your, early childhood, were there kind of any mentors that you kind of had, specifically?
For me, it was probably just my coaches, honestly. I was so when I played for my little league team, like our Calrican All-Star team, my dad was a coach.
Yeah.
I had Justin Carter as a coach, Brian Heber as a coach. Those guys, that was pretty much who I grew up on, and was, doing stuff with them for baseball. And that was, those were my guys growing up. And, as I got older, I met Coach E, and that became someone I really trusted and I really had a good relationship with. And from there on, it was college coaches. And now, I'm looking to develop that relationship with a pro coach. So for me, it's just meeting new people along the way and taking bits and pieces from everybody. But I think overall, I'd say probably Coach E is probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, no, Coach E has been absolutely great. I mean, I never played for him, on a team, but, just seeing what he brings to the table, with all his athletes, it really is extraordinary. Another name you mentioned there was Justin Carter, one of my all-time favorites. Just, I have so many memories about playing for him, like just one season. And I ended up going he was coaching a Douglas Senior Ruth, championship game. I went down to go see him. He gave me like a big bear hug, and I was like, Coach, how you doing? He's always awesome. Yeah, he's a great one as
That's
well.
one of my dad's good friends, and we still hang out with him a good amount. I give him some Maryland stuff. I'll have to give him some White Sox stuff to go put up in his house. But yeah, he's an awesome dude.
That's awesome. That's
Mhm.
that's great to hear. No, so kind of going off that, you did end up going over, and you eventually ended up leaving Sutton, and you ended up going to St.
Mhm.
John's, did your kind of thing there. Towards the end of your high school career, you had a tremendous career all throughout.
Mhm.
Towards the end though, I believe it was going into playoffs or something of that, like towards your
Yep.
senior year, was it your UCL you ended up tearing, or what
Yep.
exactly? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
UCL. Mhm.
so you ended up tearing your UCL, required Tommy John surgery. you know, you're about to, you've already committed to Maryland at this point. You're
Mhm.
getting ready to do all that. What was it like finding out that you had kind of torn your arm?
I think the first week of it was tough, obviously, because that was the first time I've been injured, like really injured in my life, and like forced to
Mhm.
miss time.
Yeah.
So that was hard. I thought, kind of heading into that year, I was dealing with, not even really dealing with, just like there was a lot going into that year. It's like, your senior year, you're supposed to be like, one of the best guys around in the state. And it's like, okay, you're the guy this year, you're the oldest guy. And, going through, I kind of went through the draft process a little bit in high school.
Mhm.
I think in the back of my mind, I knew I was probably going to go to school anyway, go to Maryland. But kind of just having that as always in the back of your head a little bit, that I think that kind of consumed me my senior year. Instead of just trying, go out and have fun like friends, it was more about, trying to do all to impress scouts and stuff like that. And I think that, this time around at Maryland, it was not like that. I was just going out to compete and have fun. And I think that's why I was ultimately able to have a pretty solid year, and it was a much more enjoyable year for me. But I think that having that year off taught me a lot. I think that was a good opportunity for me to get stronger, gain some weight, learn a lot about, the college game and what goes on at that level, and pretty much just take everything in for a year before I had to go out and perform.
Yeah. Kind of when did you know, like when did you know that you had, torn your UCL? Like when,
Mhm.
like were you pitching in a game? Was it a
Yeah.
practice?
Yeah. So it was a game. It was, I'd say the seventh inning of a game. We were playing Algonquin. I was pitching.
Oh, wow.
I was like about to throw a shutout, and it was, I think, maybe one out in the seventh inning. I threw a slider, and I felt something kind of pull on my forearm, and it wasn't really like a painful thing. So I was, that felt a little bit weird. But at the time, like I said, like there's 10, 12 scouts at the game. I don't want to just pull myself off the mound like something's wrong. So
Yeah.
I I threw a pitch, felt it a little bit. It was a slider, I think, for a ball. And then, obviously I'm like, okay, that didn't really feel like normal. Threw the
Yeah.
next pitch, threw a fastball, struck the kid on the fastball. I was like, oh, that felt good again. Like maybe it was just like one weird thing with a pitch. And then
Yeah.
I was like, I guess if
Could have been
uh,
fatigue in your
yeah,
mind
could
maybe
have been. Yeah, I
too.
was like, okay, well, I guess if my arm's really messed up, like I'll feel it on the next pitch. So
Yeah.
I threw the next pitch, didn't really feel great again, and I kind of just walked off the mound. I was like, yeah, it doesn't feel good. So
Yeah.
that was kind of that how that unfolded. And then I got an MRI that next day, and after that, I think it took a day or so, maybe that afternoon, I found out that I had a partial tear in it. Actually, I didn't
Okay.
fully tear it, but it was like a 90% partial tear. So
Okay.
it
Yeah.
was one of those things where you're going to need surgery anyway.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah.
No. So I don't know if this was the case. Did you end up playing like, first base or something after that? Because I remember hearing something that you were like playing like in the field after that. Was that true or no?
I DH'd after that. I don't know if I ever played. I remember in practice I was taking some reps at first base just because we had um some other guy. Like the way the lineup worked, it was like if I played the field, we could get another really good bat in there. So we kind of
Mhm.
tried to figure it out. I don't know if I ever played first. I can't really remember that, honestly. I did hit though for the rest of the season. I didn't get the surgery till I pushed it back as long as I could to, like, just so I could play a little bit more my senior year.
Yeah.
And because I know at that point I was probably going to miss my freshman year anyway of college.
Mhm.
So I got the surgery in June. So I think I got the surgery right before playoffs started, I want to say.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I got the surgery June 5th and was out till the next July. And then after that, I was, back 100%, felt really good.
Yeah. And kind of, when you went under the knife and kind of, came out and were trying to rehab,
Mhm.
what was that kind of a whole rehab process like? Like what did you kind of have to, kind of endure while doing that?
It was just, when you're rehabbing something, especially for that long, it's not always going to be like a linear path of, oh, like I'm feeling better and better and better each day. It's, you have some days where you feel really good and you have some days where you don't feel good. And then you have some days again where you're like, oh, I feel all right, but not great. And it's kind of just a lot of back and forth, and it's a long process. I mean, especially with Tommy John, with it being a year recovery, it's like, you got to kind of stay for the grind, and you got to take each day for as it comes, and not like kind of look too much into how you're feeling every single day. It's more just, I got my work in today. I know that, I might not feel great today, but tomorrow's a new day and I can kind of get back after it tomorrow. So that was my mindset going into it. And like I said before, just learning a lot from the guys I'm around, learning how to get my body into the condition I want it to be, getting, learning about how I want my body to move, how I want my pitches to move, what my pitches do, different stuff like that. Just going through the rehab process, just really learning more about yourself. I think that was the biggest thing for me. And that's why there's not too much, like data or statistics on like how I threw in high school, but if you were to look at how I pitched in high school and how I pitched in college, it's pretty different. And I feel like knowing myself and knowing what my stuff does, and having some help with coaches and guys here and there point me in the right direction, that was something that really turned my career forward for a good, in a good way. I think that without that, it might not have gone the way it did, just because, if I had to pitch my freshman year, I don't learn all that stuff. I don't have a year to take stuff in. And, I like to look at it as a blessing in disguise too. So I try to be more positive about it than dwell on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty interesting way to look at it. I will give you that. I mean, I've had some friends in my life that have dealt with some injuries, and it's been very grueling for them to get back from it. So kind of hearing someone describe it like that is actually kind of a really interesting take. I really do like that. So when you did end up going to Maryland, obviously you had to redshirt your freshman year, just based off injury and everything like that. Kind of going back into the high school period of it, when did you first, I'll ask you, when did you first realize that you could, when did it, kind of occur to you that you could go D1? And then during the rehab process, when did it occur to you again, okay, I'm back and I can now compete again at this level?
It was early. Probably, I think I probably knew I could play this game for a while when I was 7 years old, maybe. I think that when I was 7, me, like, you've been the Huff, right? Like me and my dad would go there, and we would take BP all the time on the weekends when he wouldn't work. And when I was 7, I hit my first home run at Huff and BP, and my dad was like, "Oh my God, like you hit a home run at 7 years old." So I think once that point happened, my dad kind of realized, like, okay, he's probably a little bit better than the average player here. And from there, like I said, it was just enjoying the game and working at it. And I knew from an early age that, like, this is what I want to do, and I put all my eggs in that basket. And I knew from an early age I had the potential to take this game a long way, and that's what I ended up doing.
And then obviously, when the injury did occur, obviously, luckily Tommy John surgery at this point is a surgery that's, been perfected to enough cases where, it's, basically something, unfortunately, that is routine for many pitchers now at this point. Like almost any guy, in the league at this point gets it, just, based off, time and just the way people throw now. Obviously, rehabbing, that's a little more comforting, but, when you're not really able to throw as fast, when, obviously, have to go through that whole rehab process. When were you kind of able to say, all right, I'm back, like I feel 100% and I could go tomorrow?
It took a little bit, honestly. I thought, so they tell you it's like a year of rehab, but when I got to the year point, I was throwing live. I faced Patrick actually in a couple of live sessions, and
he was telling me about that.
Yeah, and I think there I was not back to where I normally was. Like my fastball is probably 87, 89. And it felt good though, which I was happy about. I just wasn't really throwing that hard, and the stuff was okay. It wasn't unbelievable. It was okay. And I ended up taking about 6 weeks off in July and kind of just training, getting stronger, gaining some weight, moving a little bit better. And as soon as I picked the ball back up and started throwing again and got off the mound, my first time off the mound at Maryland, I was like 92, 94 again. So I think that at that point I was like, okay, like I'm back. I'm good to go, and I feel good again.
Yeah. When you ended up, when you first stepped on the mound, go compete again, against like, actual live batters, were there kind of some nerves in that where you were like, I don't know, hopefully my arm is back to 100%. Hopefully I can compete. Like, what was that kind of like the first time you faced live hitting again? Or like,
Yeah, so I think I wasn't really worried about my arm, like health wise at all. That came a little bit, as soon as you start throwing again, obviously you're like, oh, I don't want to mess my arm up again. So that was a little bit not scary, but like you're a little bit anxious or kind of nervous about how it's going to feel when you start throwing. But once I got back on the mound against hitters, I wasn't really concerned about that. But I thought that since it was the first time throwing in college, more so, that was more my focus. Like, oh, I'm facing college hitters for the first time. Like, that was what my kind of excitement was about. So I thought, the first time I threw in the fall for the first time in an inter squad, and that moment I was kind of amped up for. But after that, I kind of settled in and went back again for the first game in the spring. That game I was pretty pumped up for. But every game you're pumped up for, you pitch, because you're playing once a week, so you got to get your money's worth.
Yeah, no, that is true. You really do have to, basically get anything you can.
Yeah.
When you were going through the whole, college, recruitment process, I don't know how many other schools were interested in you at the time, but when it came down to it, obviously you did end up going to Maryland. You competed there. What was the what originally got you to commit there?
So for me, going into the process, I wanted to get a good business school. I wanted to get a good, a bigger, good social life school. Like, a school that's gonna be fun. And a school that's gonna be a little bit further away, but not crazy far away. So for me, Maryland checked all those boxes, and I fell in love with the coaches there. I actually didn't play for the coaches I committed to. I committed to John Sheff and Ryan Fecto. They're the coaches now at Virginia Tech, but I committed to Maryland when they were the coaches there. But I was fortunate enough for when they left, the hitting coach from Maryland took over the head coach job, and he did a great job. So I had no issues with him at all. He was awesome. And I think he's doing a good job. So, that was, for me at least, and you visit there too, and you kind of just know, like, this feels right. This feels like a place I would go. Just kind of walking on campus, I just kind of get a good vibe from it. And after that, went home. I think I visited there in maybe July or August, and then I committed in October of my junior year. So went down and visited, got an offer a couple weeks later, and then sat on it for a couple weeks, kind of made my decisions, and then committed there.
That's awesome. I mean, to be able to commit, in October of your junior year is crazy. I had no idea what school I would even be going to come that point. I don't even think I knew that I was going to Bryant until probably April of my senior year. I was like so up in the air, and to make a decision that early, that's got to be, crazy you were what, 16 years old when you made that decision?
Yeah, I was 16. Yeah, I knew where I was going to college before I could drive. Yeah.
That's crazy. That is crazy. I mean, that's got to be pretty stressful, right?
Oh yeah. No, the recruiting process was stressful, because you get some coaches too that don't handle the best, where, like, it wasn't even as stressful with guys calling you, I guess, until the recruiting rules is until September 1st, coaches can't call you of your junior year, September 1st, your junior year. I'm not sure if that's changed now. I don't know if the rules have been different.
I think they moved it back to sometime in July of, like, that sophomore into junior year. I may be wrong though.
But yeah, there's that certain cutoff date where coaches are allowed to call you first, and not you have to call them first. So once that hit my junior year in September, things got a little bit more stressful, just because they could call you whenever they wanted, and you had a bunch of coaches just hitting your line all day. But I thought that after you commit and you kind of call every other coach, like, hey, like, I'm sorry, I decided to commit to Maryland. There's some guys that don't handle it the best, but that is what it is at the end of the day.
That's pretty crazy. But obviously you had a great career over at Maryland. If there had to be any specific favorite memories that you had there, what would some of those be?
Man, they're definitely off the field, I bet. I mean, I think in general, just the whole vibe of, like, waking up Friday morning, going to lift at 6 a.m. Like everybody's like, oh, it's like so early, whatever. We get through lift. And once you get through lift Friday morning, it's like, oh, like everybody's like kind of excited for the weekend, excited for the football game, excited for practice in the afternoon. And once you kind of get through that whole like Friday morning to Sunday afternoon with football, that whole kind of 2 day, whatever it is, weekend, those are always probably my best memories, where you're with your best friends and you're going to the football games, you're going to tailgates, you're going out on a Friday night, you're watching football on a Sunday. That whole like timeline of a weekend, those are gonna be my favorite memories probably in college. And those, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you there. Unfortunately, with me having a lot of my, college experience during COVID, I had some of that, a good part of that my freshman year. Was able to get over to some Bryant baseball games last year and, even call some of them and do some announcing for them, which was pretty cool. Got to talk with some of those guys like Tyler Madison, who's a pitcher there, and some other individuals
I met him,
too.
Actually, this summer I met him. Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, I was able to. I actually just interviewed him earlier this summer, which was really great to do. But kind of going off COVID, you had like two pretty normal semesters, before COVID, even became a reality. So, you can kind of really speak to it. What was it like in your mind, like in those 2 semesters, kind of maybe it might have been like more like 1.5, but in like those 1.5 years, like before COVID with like baseball and training and everything like that, how would you say like it differed like once, everything like that came into play?
Yeah. I honestly, for us, it didn't really change too much. Honestly, it was, we had a similar schedule. There are obviously more restrictions about, how many people can be in a room, how many, masks can be worn, stuff like that. But like the physical schedule outside of classes being online, stuff like that for baseball is pretty similar before and after COVID.
That's good.
So, I mean, like I said, we would usually lift 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 6 a.m. And that was kind of the thing. I think maybe this year got pushed back to 7 o'clock, but that was our schedule. And then we start practice around noon or 1, and we get out early, like 5 or so. So that was pretty much our schedule all 3 years there, no matter what was going on with COVID. Like I said, it was just kind of different restrictions. You couldn't be in the same room as somebody, or you had to wear masks, you could have different stuff like that. But
yeah, just all sorts of crap.
For the schedule, at least, it was pretty similar, I thought.
Well, that's good that you guys didn't have to kind of like change as much when that went down. Obviously, when everything kind of first broke out, what was it like when coaches announced to you guys that the season was gonna, kind of unfortunately take that kind of a turn?
Yeah, so we were on the plane to TCU actually to play them for spring break. We were going to play TCU, I think Sam Houston State maybe, and then one other team. We're playing TCU on a weekend series, Sam Houston State in the midweek, and then we were playing somebody else that next week, and I forget who. But we were on the plane and we started seeing that like the SEC was starting to push back their season, like starting to delay some stuff for a couple of weeks. And then we saw, once we got to the hotel, it was like all the Big Ten, like they're doing the same thing, pushing back their season. And then our coach called us into the meeting room at the hotel and basically said, yeah, like the NCAA canceled the season, and that was at the point where the NBA was, I don't know if it was canceled or postponed or whatever. There was something going on with that. And, it was obviously, it sucked to hear that, especially with the start we had to the year 2 years ago. But I was glad that we were fortunate enough to have basically the same team back this year as last year. We lost one kid who was a senior who had a job lined up, so he didn't end up coming back. But the rest of everybody came back, and we had pretty much the same team with added freshmen. So this year was another good year where we were really talented, and we knew that. So, but I guess after hearing that, it was tough. I think we all took a little bit. We're sad and kind of felt for the seniors more than me, just because I was younger. But at that point, with the seniors and the juniors, those older guys don't really know if that's going to be their last year playing baseball in college or not. So we took a little bit. And then after that, we went out to dinner as a team, and then, we kind of hung out together and then flew back the next morning. And once we got back to the College Park in Maryland, we, all hung out as a team, kind of did our thing, and then went home. And I think it was a couple of weeks into the quarantine that they announced that they would be, you'd be able to bring back the seniors and the older guys who was going to be their last year. So that was a good thing to hear.
Yeah, I was really glad to hear that they were going to give that extra year of eligibility. That was, I was glad that they were, able to extend that for those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of going off all that stuff, going throughout your entire kind of college process, what was it like? I'm kind of curious to see what was it like for you when, you talked about stepping on the mound to face, other teams and, face live teams again. Obviously that excitement was there. Was there a moment for you in college where there was kind of like where there was a moment where you kind of like realized and you were like, oh shoot, like I'm pitching in college baseball. Like I'm actually doing this thing right now.
I thought honestly it was probably this year. You don't really think about it when you're in the moment like that. Like you're not really thinking like, oh, like I'm playing a Division I team right now. Like I'm playing at college. Cause like in high school, you're like, oh, we're playing, Algonquin today. We're playing Wachusett today. It's like, oh, it's like high school. And it's like that team turns into, oh, we're playing Michigan today. And it's just like, that is like a completely different level. And I think that for me, since I was kind of like I missed the season. I didn't play my freshman year, so I didn't get like the freshman, big stargazy eyes, and I'm going to the first stadium for the first time. But I thought this year when I was talking to the freshmen this year, and I was like this is their first time playing in a COVID year. This is kind of like not normal for them. Like kind of asking how like what they were thinking of it and how they were doing, like kind of making sure they were prepared to go into the first weekend. I was like, oh, was it crazy for you guys yet? And they were like, it's just weird that even watching these schools on TV your whole life now, like we're playing Michigan State, and that's who we're opening up with. And I was like, yeah, I guess like I never thought about it that way, but like, yeah, we're playing like Michigan State, and that's like a big name college you watch on TV all the time. Like we're about to play them right now. So, but after that, you kind of just settle into the game. It's just like any other game.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to kind of have that experience is crazy. Were there ever any moments where you kind of like looked and you saw like, oh, I'm on like eventually like, it was after the game, but it would be like, oh, I was like on like, national TV today. And it's like, this is kind of crazy.
That's a little bit crazy. I think we were on the Big Ten Network, televises a decent amount of our games, like being on ESPN for the tournament, just stuff like that. That's cool. I think like that's something you also don't really like worry about or think about during the game, but it's
exactly
like after the game, like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, to see like actual like high quality highlights that weren't taken on an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like wow, that quality is amazing.
Yeah. There's definitely the tournament. We were in the tournament. They did a pretty good job with ESPN. They did a good job. The Big Ten Network does a pretty good job too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I figured as much. When the next thing I want to get into, that kind of concludes what I have in terms of your college career and things like that. Transitioning a little bit into now professional baseball and everything like that. You ended up getting drafted by the White Sox and with the 96th pick in the third round of the draft. Kind of walk me through what was that whole like draft process like? I know you'd been through it a little bit in high school, but when did you kind of declare that you were going to be going for the draft? And then once you did, like, what was it like, going through that whole process?
Yeah. So I think since high school, like I said, I went through it a little bit, but not to this extent I did this year at all. So, I mean, since high school, I've been in contact with a lot of guys kind of over the years. They were just, checking in, seeing how things going. And this year, I didn't really know how it was going to be in college. Honestly, I didn't know because we had a couple guys drafted, but nobody kind of like crazy high. So I didn't know like what the scout situation would be in college because there's more video in college too. So you can guys, if you send a guy to a game, you can watch video on the guy, and it's like you don't necessarily like have to be at the game to scout the kid. Whereas in high school, it's like you've got to be there, or else you're not getting any video of it.
You have no idea.
Yeah, exactly. So going into this fall, especially with COVID too, I was like, I have no clue what the situation, like what it's going to be like this fall or this spring for scouting. My first outing of the fall in my inner squad, there were 25 scouts in the stands. I was like, okay, like it's a little bit different than before. And that continued throughout the fall. And then when we got to the winter and the off season, I did my meetings. I met with every single club over Zoom. It was it took about an hour, so I would do, depending on the day, 2 or 3 a day, and kind of just crush them out for a week or two. And then going into the season was a lot of, talking to clubs, talking to guys, kind of people asking you the updates, stuff like that. And then we opened up in Greenville, South Carolina for a game against Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
I threw in that, and that, there were probably, I can't even tell you, 40, 50 scouts at that game.
That's crazy.
And so at that point, I was like, okay, it's a little bit more real than this time, but other than the last time. But then like you kind of settle in, you get used to it. And, I don't even really see like my pitch when I'm pitching, it's just like catcher down. That's all I'm focused on. So, but it was fun. And then going through after the season was more stressful than probably during the season, because during the season you got baseball to worry about. You're not really thinking about the draft or anything like that. And after the season ends, you're kind of we had like this weird period of like 3 weeks of kind of like a lull period between the draft and the end of the season. So for me, I went to the combine in North Carolina this year, the first time they did that. So that was a cool experience. That's actually where I met Tyler down there. And
oh, nice.
That was, kind of crazy meeting with more teams again. And then, you do the pre-draft workouts, you go out to some stadiums and, work out for some teams. And then draft day itself was pretty crazy. Honestly, night one went by. I knew I probably wasn't going to go night one. Kind of going into the draft, my agent and I talked about what the range we'd probably expect to be in. And going into it, we're like, yeah, we're probably going to go somewhere in like the 50 to 70 range, like overall. And that was the money I kind of wanted. And, going into it the next morning after the first night was just round one. So round two started the next day. And, I called my agent at like noon, maybe 11 o'clock noon, an hour or two before the draft started. We kind of just went over our game plan again, what we're going to do going into the draft. And he called me and said, like the White Sox at 57, like they're looking at you there, and they're probably, if you're there, that's a good shot. You go to them. I'm like, okay. Because he was my agent also had the White Sox first round pick.
Okay.
So he'd been talking to them kind of all day the night before. So he'd been in contact with them, and that pick started approaching. I was sitting there, my phone didn't go off, and I was like, oh, pick probably 55 came. I was like, oh, I guess I'm not going to the White Sox then, because I'd probably get a call. And after that, I was like, okay, so I mean, we still I talked to pretty much every single team the next 10 to 12 picks. My phone just kept sitting there not ringing. I was like, man, this sucks. And kind of going through the thing, and we got to pick like 60, 65 maybe. It was like a couple picks before the Orioles were picking at 65, and I had been talking to them a ton. Their doctors looked at me at the combine. I flew out to their stadium to do a workout down there, and I was like, okay, like I saw my phone ring at like pick 63, and I was like, okay, I can probably go to the Orioles. My agent called me and goes, all right, like hold tight. Nothing's really forming right now. Like I'll be in contact with you. It's like, all right, a couple more picks go by, and we had set the floor at a certain amount of money for how much I wanted and how much it was going to take to sign me. And we had a game plan going in of how much, what the amount we were going to get. And then he called me after that pick and was like, do you still want me to set the floor? What we talked about, we're getting to the point where anything that you get picked with now, they're going to have to sign you for over slot. And I was like, yeah, we'll keep the floor there. And then the White Sox were fortunate enough to come around and have enough money in the third round to go over slot and sign. So, at the end of the day, it was an awesome feeling. I think to have my friends and family and everything around me too was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To hear your name, called on the MLB Network and all that stuff. How surreal was that for you?
I thought so. I honestly thought it was more surreal getting the phone call from my agent, like, yeah, going to White Sox like that.
Yeah.
That was probably like one of the craziest things was, it was at that point too, like I said, my friends and family were there, but I kind of stepped into a different room to talk to him once we kind of started getting later in the draft, just because at that point we had a lot more serious conversations to talk about whether like, because if I don't get the money, it's like, do I go back to school? Like, what's my plan there? And it's, at that point, it was just me, my mom, and my dad in another room. And once I got the call from him, we were all obviously really happy. And going back into the room, it was like a 5-pick waiting period between like when I got the call saying you're going to the White Sox, and I had to wait 5 picks for the White Sox to actually call my name.
That's crazy. So to kind of know something in advance like that, like
Yeah.
how weird is that kind of a feeling? Because like, when you're watching it on MLB Network, like I think it's Jonathan Mayo who makes like makes the selections like later on those rounds. And like it's just like speed like rounds. Like they'll do like a quick thing on the pitcher or in like or pitcher in your case, but on in any other case, they'll be like, oh, this guy's a second baseman. He's from Arlington, Texas. This is his thing, and here's a clip of him. And then they go right back to it, and it's like, all right, Jonathan, hit him again. And so it does go fairly quick, but to kind of be like, like to kind of like just be sitting there and kind of be like, oh, like the people in this house are kind of like the only, and obviously the White Sox are like the only people that know this news right now. Like, like how weird is that kind of a feeling when it's like no one else knows this yet?
Yeah, no, it was a little weird. That's why I was thinking like the call was more surreal than the pick on TV.
Yeah.
It was like I already knew I was going there, and the TV kind of just like reaffirmed that. So it was fun though, because like I came back into the room and everybody was like, what's the deal? And I was like, I'm going to the White Sox. And everybody kind of like went crazy then, and then we had to wait for the pick, and then people went crazy again. So it was cool. That I did notice once the second round started, because the years prior, usually the first 2 rounds are on night 1 on TV, and then the next rounds are, you go through on MLB Network or whatever. But I didn't really realize how fast the picks would go by once it started. And I was like, the first 5 picks went by in like 2 minutes, and I was like, oh my god, like this is getting on me, kind of like I gotta. But,
they speed round it.
Yeah, so that was a little bit crazy, but like I said, at the end of the day, it was a fun day, and we got a great opportunity with the White Sox, and I'm happy with where I'm at.
Yeah, kind of after the celebration, kind of rings out. What was it like to kind of just be around all those people? Like, what would you guys kind of just do like that night? Kind of just like hanging out, like just stuff like that. What was what was kind of like the after kind of period like that?
So I got picked at probably like 2:30, 2:30-ish, and like I said, at that time I probably had 10 or 15 of my friends over. My girlfriend was there, my parents, grandparents, stuff like that. So once that happened, we kind of just all started celebrating. And the draft, it was on Monday, so it was kind of like a weird time, Monday afternoon, where like a lot of people were working. So after so we were probably celebrated by ourselves. We're probably 20, 25 of us in total at my house, and we ate food. We kind of celebrated, and once like 3, 4, 5 o'clock started rolling around, that's when everybody started pouring in, getting out of work, and I don't even know how many people were at the house eventually at night, but it was a fun night. We stayed up. It was the home run derby was that day too.
Oh shoot!
So we kind of we celebrated all day, watched the home run derby. I had a bunch of my friends over. It was a good time.
That derby was awesome. I don't know about you, but that thing was, I mean, Pete Alonso just, completely dominating that thing, but that was one of the better derbies, in the past couple of years. That was awesome to see. I remember watching that, and that was really good. I remember Shohei kind of just like did not perform whatsoever. And everyone was like, what the heck is happening? I was like, I don't know. But no. So, now being a part of, the White Sox organization, what is your life, what is your life kind of as a minor leaguer? Obviously, you got drafted. It was like what, just like over about a month or so ago at this point?
Yeah. About a month ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Just about a month ago at this point. So in, the little amount of time that you've, kind of been, in professional ball, what's that kind of been like?
It's been fun. It's, so I'm out in Arizona now. We had a training camp in Birmingham, Alabama, where their AA is, for about a week or so before coming out here. Just the new draft guys kind of getting used to the whole schedule and the situation, our throwing, ramping up a little bit. And then we came out here, and I was telling you kind of before the show started, we have games on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Wednesday is like a shorter practice day, and Sundays are off day. So, I mean, it's definitely busy. We get to the field usually at like 12 or so, and we're there till 9 at night. So I mean, it's a full day, but it's enjoyable, and it's like it's not on the go all the time necessarily. It's more we'll do our early work we'll get there at 12. We'll eat lunch. We'll get stretched out by the trainers, get our like kind of treatment in. Then we'll go lift or do whatever we have to do in the weight room. Then we'll go kind of stretch out. We'll go do our early work. We'll practice. We'll throw, and then we'll come back in, get another meal, chill, get a recovery in, and then we go into the game. If you're pitching that night, you go pitch. The good thing is, like, I'm starting here, so like the starters don't have to show up to the field on the days they're pitching until whenever they want to get ready for the game. So that's a little bit of you get your mornings and some early afternoon in on those days. So that's nice.
Kind of a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are these games like inter squad, or are they like you guys compete against actual other clubs?
We play other clubs. Like yesterday, I pitched yesterday. I pitched against the Dodgers club yesterday.
Okay. Nice.
So it's just like kind of all the Arizona complex teams, like everybody's minor league team, we just kind of play each other.
Yeah. Is this kind of like is this more of a like rookie ball kind of situation?
Yeah.
Where are you in right now? Is that the level you're at right now?
Yeah. So I'm in rookie ball right now. We sent all our draft guys to rookie ball to start. I'm not sure what I'll be doing as far as the end of this year goes, whether I'll be moved up or whether they'll just keep me here and kind of have me throw down here to keep some eyes on me. But I threw an inning yesterday. It went well. And I think we're just going to kind of ramp up, and I'll probably maybe go up to 3 innings. But I don't think I'll go much over that just because I threw a lot this year and they don't want to blow me out too early. But yeah.
Yeah. Are there any fall leagues that they're looking to possibly get you in, anything like that? Or
yes. So we'll have instructional league. We'll have instructs right after the season. It'll probably runs like early mid-October. Okay. And then from there, then we'll be, done, go home for the off season, and then we'll come back in February, March, whenever spring training starts.
Nice. That's pretty nice. So, obviously, the spring training thing is, different than, probably the spring training we see on TV. What is, I mean, I know you haven't gone through it yet at this point but from what you've heard, what is that kind of like?
I heard it's kind of similar to what we're doing now, where, you work out, you practice in the day, and you got some games at night, you get some games in the later afternoon. So I'm assuming pitchers, every organization is kind of different, but I'm assuming pitchers, if you're not throwing, you're kind of, doing everything you do during the day. And I'm not sure if you go home or not, but regardless, your nights, late afternoons will be, you're either watching a game or going home. So I'm guessing that it will be a similar length day, but I'm not entirely positive. Sure. I know that instructs this fall we end a little bit earlier than we do here. So that'll be nice to kind of get the back end of the day free.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Another thing I was kind of wondering about is, when you eventually did end up signing, you did end up going out to the White Sox actual ballpark. Am I correct with that? Yeah. So you ended up going out to Guaranteed Rate Field. When you had like the whole contract put in front of you, and you had and you saw that White Sox hat, in my mind, if I just saw a White Sox hat leave, like on a table, I would just be like, oh, who dropped their hat? Like, and it's like, wait, how weird did it feel, like put on like the hat of a major league ball club, but realize like you're not wearing this just because you like the hat, like that's actually now the team you're repping. Like,
yeah, I don't even think that's set in yet. Like, I put the uniform on there yesterday for the first time, and
really,
I didn't even yesterday. I made my first start yesterday, and putting like that off the first time, putting the hat on, I'm like, this doesn't even feel like I don't know, it just doesn't feel real, I guess. I think that because you're so focused on playing the game, it's like that doesn't even, you're not so worried about the other stuff, you're just kind of focused on doing your job. And it's a little bit crazy. I think signing the contract, I expected the contract to be this like huge, like formal written document with little type, like little tiny font, and the contract was actually pretty it looked like a school paper or something like that. It didn't look that official. So that kind of surprised me a little bit. I thought it was going to be more look like a legal document. It was more just kind of like looked like someone just typed it up on the Word or something like that.
That's really funny. There's like all little like short little clauses in there, things like that. It's like, and if he does break this violation, no.
Yeah. It was it's long though. It's probably, I don't even know how long. I got a copy of it over my backpack. It was probably 10 or 12 pages. Oh, wow. But yeah, you sign like 4 lines, and it's like, okay, the rest of it is just a bunch of bulk to read eventually. But yeah, it's like, don't do anything. Don't like break the law and you're going to not get paid. It's like, okay, yeah, obviously I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Don't do roids. It's like, we got it. It's like, we got it. But nah, man, I've been really psyched to have you on the show today. It's been, it's been a great episode interviewing you. Before before I do kind of, let you go and, let you enjoy the rest of this off day, I'm really glad that you did join me on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Very glad I was able to get you on for that. But before I do let you go, I wanted to ask, going forward, with, baseball wise and, just life in general, what are some goals that you kind of have for yourself, obviously on the field, but as well as off?
I think starting with on the field, obviously you want to make up to the big leagues and help the White Sox win as soon as possible. I don't want to put like a timeline or a year. I want to be up by this year or whatever. Just because I feel like guys do that and they start to feel into the thing where it's like, oh, if I'm not meeting my goal or if I'm ahead of schedule, behind schedule, like you kind of get more consumed with that. For me, I'm just trying to go out every day and improve and, be more consistent every single day and, just perfect my craft, and then the rest will take care of itself. So, I guess my goals on the field will be, get into the big leagues as quick as possible. And then, from there, just help them win. I want to win World Series. I want to win a Cy Young. I want to do all this stuff that, you dream of doing with a kid. So the first step of that is just getting to the big leagues and getting yourself established up there. And so I guess on the field, that would be that. Off the field, honestly, I'd say I'm looking to get a place down in Nashville or Florida for the off season. So that'd be a cool thing off the field, and, getting set up down there and finding, I'd be training down there in the off season, but getting the new area figured out, I guess this winter. That's kind of the immediate future for me, I guess.
Well, the Florida area is obviously great. So I think you'll definitely, find a nice home down there. Especially with a nice signing bonus, you'll definitely be able to find a good area to have yourself going down there. But Sean, obviously, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a blast having you on. But I think it's unfortunately time to say that we are now down to the wire, which means that I'm going to do a quick little wrap up of what we talked about in this interview today, and we'll send you guys on your way. Obviously, we welcome Sean Burke, minor league pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, onto the show today. Had a great interview with him, talk about, baseball in his early years through college and even up to what he's doing right now in the minors. And, all in all, it was a great interview. Sean, thank you so much once again for coming on, man.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
And, before I close out, if you're not following Down the Wire at this point, what the heck are you guys doing? We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere you can find us, as well as YouTube and many other hubs too. But the main hub you can reach us through is our Instagram. You can follow that at down.tothewire on Instagram, again, at down.tothewire. Sean, if there's anything you want to shout out at this time, I'll let you do that.
No, thanks for having me on. Just go follow the Instagram.
Thank you so much, man. But that kind of concludes what we have today. So from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm Sean Burke.
And we hope you guys have a good one. Take care.